Howdy. So I've been waiting to make this video. It's going to be my feedback on Destiny 2. I wanted to wait until I've experienced all of the content the vanilla version of the game has. I wanted to wait until I had a 100% understanding how the game works, how the mechanics work, and now that the prestige mode of Leviathan just came out today and has been completed, I am finally at that point where I feel like I can actually talk about this stuff. The first thing I want to get into is PvP. So I actually enjoy the PvP of Destiny 2 a lot. I think the PvP team and the Sandbox team did a really good job of PvP. I understand that some people maybe might not like it, but you know, not everything is for everyone. That's fine. I like that there is a bigger emphasis on teamwork. I like that my grenades aren't coming back every 20 seconds. I like that the game puts an emphasis on your teamwork and then actually controlling certain parts of the map, getting power weapon ammo. When you get that power weapon ammo, you can make a play. And that is where you can make individual plays. And when you get your grenade, that's when you can make individual plays. And when you get your super, that's when you can make individual plays. I think the cooldowns are in a good spot. I think the super cooldowns are in a good spot. And I really like the power ammo system. I think it's great. I understand that some people might not agree with that, and that's fine. I really enjoy Trials. Trials, I think, is really good. The only thing as a player, it's pretty discouraging. Now that the Mercy is gone in Trials, if someone lags out, gets an error code, their power gets shut off, you know, mom turns off the router, you know, and then you have to restart or something, it can be a little discouraging. Especially if it's survival with how long those cards can take. And something like that happens, it sucks to have to restart. It just kind of ruins your morale as a player to have to restart if something like that happens. Iron Banner, I thought was a lot of fun. I love the surprise of getting Shores of Time as a remake. I think that the remake plays even better than the original, and in Destiny 2's Sandbox, I think it plays really well. I thought that was awesome. It was a really cool surprise, and I loved it. Iron Banner was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing Control. I liked that everyone cared more about their games and really wanted to win. I thought it was great. A ranking system, which we don't have currently, would also do that. It would make people try, it'd make people care. You'd be able to play people, you know, near or on your skill level, and it would give something for players to push to be better constantly. Hopefully we can get a ranking system. Not having a ranking system as a player kind of makes it feel like, you know, like I can play PvP for my own enjoyment and entertainment, but I want something as a player so badly to be able to go and play for. Like, that is what I want. Pretty much more than anything right now is a ranking system. I want something to strive for. I want to play other people closer to my skill level. Now, the competitive playlist can do that, but usually, for me personally, people quit in competitive all the time, and because there's no join in progress, and there's no real quitting penalty, like, when I go and play competitive, people quit, and then I'm sitting around in a game, and I'm stuck in a game in a 2v4 or a 1v4, and the game lasts like 20 to 30 minutes because of that. And so I usually find myself playing quick play. I'm the type of player that I don't really enjoy pub stomping. It can be fun sometimes, but I enjoy when I have an even match, you know, people of similar skill level on my team, and we're playing against people of a similar skill level. And then it goes down to the wire, you know, one kill to win. Those type of scenarios is what I love when I'm playing PvP. And a ranking system would bring that more often. It would have something for people to play for, and people wouldn't be quitting. And yeah, a ranking system right now is absolutely what I think we need. Private matches would also be really nice. Not just private matches though, custom matches. Being able to change settings, you know, player speed, make your player speed, be able to make it so you move at 10% speed so you're as slow as a snail, or, you know, 500% speed so you're the Flash and you're flying around, and you're jumping. You can jump 50 feet in the sky if you want to. You could set all of those little settings. Just as many customization options as possible. There's nothing wrong with more options. You know, as many options as we can get in the private lobbies would be great. Now this is something, my next point is going to be something that only applies to a very small percentage of players. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Personally, for me, I hope it does. Would be esports support. And I understand the whole, oh, this games is peer-to-peer and 30 FPS on console. Doesn't matter. If they supported esports on Destiny, it would be successful. Period. I 100% believe that. There would be people watching, there'd be people playing, there'd be people, you know, competing, and people would be striving for it. And I think esports would be really good for Destiny, and I really, really, really hope it ends up happening. Outside of that, with PvP, I don't think there's really much more I could touch on. I think that the balance of the game and the way that the weapons were balanced in the sandbox is really good. But it just goes to show, even if everything's perfectly balanced, people are still going to gravitate towards a handful of weapons. You know, right now, the meta is just Antiope, the SMG, Mida Multi-Tool, Uriel's Gift, Last Hope. Those are your 4 best weapons. And an update's going to come. The weapons are going to change. We're going to have a new meta, etc. It's just always how it's going to be. And that's fine. I like that. I'm enjoying the meta currently. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's pretty good. And I'm excited for whenever it comes where we get an update and that changes. And that's just how it's always going to be. And I'm totally cool with that. And I understand that. As a player, for me personally, I'm cool with it. It's fine. One more thing I would like to touch on really quick in terms of PvP is the high caliber explosive rounds, armor piercing rounds. Now, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I think armor piercing rounds also causes more flinch. But it's created a problem in PvP where you really only want to use weapons with high caliber or explosive rounds or anything that causes flinch on your weapon. And this was also a problem in Destiny 1, but for some reason it keeps coming back up and we keep getting high caliber back in the game. But I think something needs to be done about high caliber because there's no reason to choose a weapon that causes less flinch than one that causes more flinch and makes you a harder target for the person that you're in a fight with. So something needs to be done about high caliber. There needs to be maybe a whiteboard in the Bungie studios that says we should not add high caliber to the game or something. You know what I mean? Like, because if for some reason it keeps coming up, it keeps getting addressed, and then it comes back a few months later, and it's really confusing to me as a player as to why this keeps happening. So I don't know. We have this high caliber problem again, and it needs to be addressed. The next thing I want to touch on is the leveling up process of Destiny. Now, as a player, you can hit the max level. In fact, I was one of 4 players hit the max level before the raid even came out. And at the time, I had no idea that I had hit the max level. And it was a little discouraging, and I didn't really have much motivation to do endgame activities when it's not progressing my character. So doing the raid, the raid comes out and I don't progress my character. Trials comes out, I don't progress my character. Iron Banner comes out, I don't progress my character. And motivation wise, like, yes, I can enjoy the content. The content is great, but there's no progression in my character by doing these difficult end game activities, and that's discouraging for me. I really do wish that, the cap wasn't 305 and I wasn't able to hit the cap before the raid came out. I wish that when the raid came out, that would have progressed my character, and Trials would have progressed my character, and Iron Banner would have progressed my character. That for me personally would have been a lot better. The Prestige Nightfall as well, forgot to include that one, would have progressed my character. I don't think as a player I didn't enjoy being able to hit the max level without even doing the raid, without doing Trials, without doing Iron Banner. I didn't like that personally. Maybe some people do, but for me, I didn't like it. Leveling up in general. So when you first complete the campaign, the best way to level up is doing public events. You can either do public events, strikes, or PvP. And the time that you put into strikes and PvP compared to the rewards is nowhere near as rewarding as just doing public events. And I think there's a little bit of a problem there. I think if the rewards, you got more rewards for doing strikes, especially, and then PvP, just a little bit lower than strikes, because doing a strike, you invest a lot of time and you don't really get rewarded for it. And then PvP, you don't put in as much time and you get just about the same rewards as a strike. So I feel like there needs to be more rewards there, so that as a player I can be like, all right, I want to go public event. Okay, I'm kind of sick of doing these public events. Let's go do a strike. Okay, I'm kind of sick of doing the strike. Let's go do PvP. To have those options and to actually make it make sense in terms of getting the same reward for the time that you're putting in would be great. I think that could maybe be adjusted a little bit, however that may be. But as a player, I didn't enjoy just the public event grind. Another thing with leveling up is the legendary mods. The game never tells you that a legendary mod boosts the light level of your item that you put a legendary mod on at all by 5. So you put a legendary mod on, the light level increases by 5. And the game never explains that to you. And I didn't actually find that out until I was like near 280 light. And if the game would have explained that, that would have been pretty cool. I think that would have made my experience a little bit better instead of having to figure that out through my Twitch stream. But I think adding something in there for players, because I don't think very many new players understand that unless they were told about the mod system. So something maybe added in to explain how that mod system works. And then mods in general, I thought there was going to be a little bit more like with the mod system going into it. Like, for example, with weapons, I thought that there were going to be perks, like, you know, maybe rangefinder, you know, you could grind and you could get rangefinder and then you could put it on a weapon and that would make, you know, your weapon better. And then I thought that was what the end game grind was going to be, because we have all these weapons that have static rolls. And I like that. It makes it easier to balance. But I thought that the trade-off was going to be that we had this mod system that would have been our end game grind. You know, maybe getting that rangefinder mod isn't very easy to do, and when you get it, you use it and then it's stuck on that weapon, so then you need to do it again. It's this constant, like, you know, something to play for and something to grind for. You know, I think something definitely could be done more with the mod system. So hopefully we could see that, or maybe Bungie has a completely better idea than that. I have no idea. I'm not a game designer. I'm just giving my feedback as a player. But the mod system, I definitely think could be, you know, a little bit better. There's more there. There's a lot of potential with that mod system that I don't think is being tapped into. Another thing I need to touch on is the token system. Now, I really like the token system when it comes to patrol. I like that I can go to the EDZ, do activities in the EDZ, get EDZ tokens, and then use those tokens to get exclusive gear that you can only get at the EDZ and by doing activities on the EDZ. And then that applies obviously to the 3 other patrols. I don't like that the tokens apply to everything across the board. I don't like that it applies to the raid. I don't like that it applies to trials. I don't like that it applies to Iron Banner. And why do I feel that way? Well, for example, if I'm doing a raid and we complete an encounter, we complete the final boss, let's just say, and instead of my weapon or armor piece dropping after I just completed this encounter, so I beat this encounter and we're all hyped, we're all excited that we just beat this encounter, and then I get this drop and then it's like a double dose of excitement. You know, that feeling is great, and I don't think anyone can argue that, you know, that you don't like that feeling, and I think everyone can agree that that feels better than completing an encounter. The hype dies down, you go to the tower, and then you get your drop. Like, sure, you're still gonna be excited that you got that weapon or armor piece or whatever it may be, but it's not as exciting as getting it right at the end of the encounter. And now I do know that sometimes the drops can come from the end of an encounter, but not always, because of that token system. So I would like to see, you know, going forward as a player, it'd be a lot cooler if that's happened more in the game rather than going to a vendor at the tower after your hype dies down. And then that applies to the raid, trials, Iron Banner, you know, the end game activities. I think the token system is great for the patrols. Just personally for me, it's not as good when it applies to the raid, trials, Iron Banner, your end game content. Another thing I want to touch on is lost sectors. I think lost sectors are great. As a player, like, seeing it on the map, you know, there wasn't really much exploration with it. So maybe if they weren't on the map, that'd be a bit better. Also, the way, you know, you complete a lost sector, you run into the lost sector, you look for the yellow enemy, you kill the yellow enemy, you open the chest, and then you run out. You ignore literally everything else. Now, I originally thought that lost sectors would be like, you know, maybe there's a strike or like raid caliber boss, you know, there's varying difficulties of these lost sectors, and maybe one you go into is just a jumping puzzle. Final Fantasy 15 had a bunch of dungeons around the map, and one of the dungeons you go into, and then all of a sudden you're in this 3-hour-long jumping puzzle. It was amazing. It was super cool, and at the end of the jumping puzzle you got this really, really good item. Stuff like that would be so cool. I think there's so much potential in lost sectors that's not being tapped into, and I would like in the future, if lost sectors are being added, to see, you know, little bit more there. You know, maybe there's one just completely dedicated to a jumping puzzle. Maybe there's some crazy boss, and then you get some like really cool reward. It's, you know, something kind of like the Black Spindle from Destiny 1. You know, because the Black Spindle mission caught everyone by surprise, and actually got such good feedback from literally I don't know anyone that complained about the Lost Sector surprise, which was just, you know, there's a daily heroic story, and one day it was a random mission, and this door that wasn't normally opened, and then all of a sudden you're in this end game encounter that was pretty difficult, and then you got a black spin. Like, it was super cool. So I'd like to see more of that going forward with Destiny 2. I think there's a ton of potential to utilize that, and I think players would absolutely love it. Another thing in Destiny 2 is auras. There is so much potential in the auras. If you don't know what the aura is, it puts this thing around your head after you complete an activity. There's currently 3 of them, but they're all the same. They just have a different color. In Halo Reach, there was something sort of similar to auras. You had like Inclement Weather put like a bunch of lightning around your character, a bunch of hearts, or like, you know, a bunch of like green stuff, and then like Grunt Birthday Party. There was like all sorts of different unique, cool, I guess you could call them auras in Halo Reach. I think there's a ton of potential of the auras and what could be done with them. And I hope that in the future we get more unique auras, not just like a half crown and they're all like every color of the rainbow. You know what I mean? I think some more unique style auras would be really cool and accepted by players in general. I think people would really like that. I'd like to briefly touch on the raid. So the raid in Destiny 2 I thought was great. It was a really good raid. For me personally as a player, I like boss fights. Only having one boss fight in the raid was kind of like, oh, come on, you know. I enjoyed the hell out of all the other encounters, don't get me wrong. But if that raid had, let's just say, one more boss fight and maybe 1 or 2 jumping puzzles added onto the raid, it probably would have been my favorite raid. But because it doesn't have those things, it's probably like my 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th favorite raid. Just because, you know, players love boss fights. Players like the jumping puzzles. I mean, maybe not I think some people hate jumping puzzles. But for me, I love the jumping puzzles and I love boss fights. And I think everyone can at least agree on we like boss fights, and more boss fights will always be welcome. But overall, the raid was great. I would just like to see, you know, maybe 2, 3 bosses in a raid would be pretty cool. On the topic of raids, with the prestige mode releasing today, our power levels didn't go up. And for me, I didn't like that. I don't think a lot of players like that. We already had a difficult endgame encounter in the raid itself, and this is an even more difficult version of it. And the only reward we get out of it is an aura and armor that looks slightly different, but still overall looks the same. The weapons are the same, and that's literally it. That's the only incentive to do this endgame activity other than the experience itself. And I don't like that as a player. That's just like, why do this encounter? Like, yes, I already have a full set of the armor, and getting the exact same set with part of it glowing a little bit it's cool and all, but do I really want to invest the time to get that? And there's no unique perks with that armor. It's really no different in terms of mechanics and what it does for my player than armor I could get just doing patrols or getting legendary engrams. And I don't really like that. There was no new weapons, which has happened before with other hard modes. The first week of the raid, the normal mode raid launching, it wasn't possible to get the hand cannon or the sniper. So I figured those would have been held for hard mode. But then the second week came around and we were able to get the hand cannon and sniper. Now, I don't know if this was a bug or intentional, but it didn't really make much sense to me. So maybe going forward, make it so, you know, the hard mode of the raid brings our power level up. There's more to the armor, there's more weapons, or, you know, just more of an incentive to go in and invest the time in this super difficult activity, other than just the experience of doing this raid in general. I think would be a lot better. Outside of that, guys, I can't really think of much more that I could give feedback on at this moment. Now, we all know that we are going to get updates, we are going to get DLCs. Bungie loves this game, they really care about this game. I know that from personal experience, so I'm looking forward to what they do. Hopefully they're on top of it. Hopefully we're not waiting 2 years for private lobbies, because frankly, I don't think that's really acceptable. We hopefully get the things we want. I think that people in the community really need to calm down. There's a lot of people that are being, frankly, really toxic. And if you're just going to constantly hate on the game, rather than give constructive feedback, it doesn't make much sense. Just move on. If that's really the case, if you hate this game and you're just going to day in, day out constantly, you know, talk down on it, then why play it? Now, the correct approach is constructive criticism. There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism, but if you're just gonna sit there and say this game sucks, I hate this game, oh Bungie sucks, and I hate all the developers, like, what is that doing? That doesn't change anything. We're also not game designers. You know, Bungie, I'm sure, cares more about why do you feel that way? What is it exactly that is making you feel that way? And then they can address those problems. And that's my 2 cents. I think everyone needs to take a step back, think about what you're saying. And I understand that people are saying this because they care about the game and the well-being of the game, but being absolutely toxic doesn't do any good, and it just makes you look bad, frankly. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Those are my thoughts, and let's see what Bungie does.